In the Elder Scrolls Online, my absolute favorite content in the game is undoubtedly the 12-player trials. Whether you're having a casual farming run with some randoms or some friends in a normal trial, or you're testing your skills and knowledge with Vet and Vet Hard mode, or you're going even beyond that to reach new heights in the leaderboard, trials are a blast. Just for fun, I wanted to rank each trial from my least favorite to my top favorite based on my experience as a healer. So, my name's Doc, and before I get into the actual rankings, let me just throw out a quick disclaimer. So, as I mentioned, I'll be ranking these from the perspective of a healer. So, when I talk about how much fun a trial is, it's based on playing the healing role in that trial. Fun won't be the only factor I take into account when ranking these. I'll also be looking at aesthetics, difficulty, valuable gear, and more into account when doing these rankings. Also, just a reminder that these are just my opinions. I'm just a guy on the internet making this video for fun, so if you agree or disagree with me, that's totally fine. Finally, I want to mention that I don't think there's a bad trial in ESO. Even the lowest ranked trial in this list is still incredibly fun for me, and I enjoy playing it, but just not as much as the ones that follow. Speaking of the lowest ranked trial, let's go ahead and start talking about it. And in that spot, we have number 14, Hel Ra Citadel. I'm sure most people expected it, but yes, the Craglorn trials will be towards the bottom. As I mentioned just a second ago, I don't think Hel Ra is bad. Far from it, actually. I have a ton of fun playing it, and it can be great for introducing new players to trials. The two main factors that bring it down are just that Hel Ra is very easy and very short. A smaller reason is that most of the gear just isn't really that good. There's honestly not much to say other than that. Still love Hel Ra, but it's going at the bottom of the list. Number 13, we've got Etherian Archive. This is here for pretty much all of the same reasons that Hel Ra was at the bottom. It's still very fun, but it's short and easy, and the gear isn't that good. However, the sole reason that AA finds itself above Hel Ra is because it is so much prettier to look at than Hel Ra. At least in my opinion, anyway. At the very least, I know when I load into Etherian Archive, I'll be met with some stunning visuals that are still enjoyable to look at all these years later. Number 12, we have Asylum Sanctorium. So you may be going, oh, okay, so he just hates mini-trials. Well, actually, no. I really like the mini-trials, and you'll see that when we get to Cloud Rest placement. No, there are a few reasons that Asylum Sanctorium is so low. Aesthetically, I'm just not a fan of the Clockwork City. I know some people really love it. I'm just not one of those people. The Asylum weapons, especially for healers, just are kind of meh. And from an actual healing standpoint, back kiting or group healing is really fun, like really, really fun. For me personally, though, front kiting is just kind of meh. I don't hate it, and it's an important role, so I'll happily do it, but if you want to try out kite healing, Cloud Rest or even Rock Grove will give you a much more enjoyable kite healing experience in my humble opinion. If there are any front kite enthusiasts out there, I'm sorry if that upsets you, but I just don't really enjoy it. Again, though, Asylum Sanctorium does get some points for how fun the group healing is. At number 11, we have Sanctum Ophidia. Some people may be surprised to see Sanctum Ophidia as my favorite of the 3 Craglorn trials, and I even have it ranked above Asylum Sanctorium. Well, there are 2 reasons for that. The first is that this trial specifically is so much fun as a healer. Is all that poison pretty much from start to finish annoying? Absolutely. Does it also make me feel really good about myself when I look at a heal parse after a successful run of this place? Also, absolutely. Out of the 3 Craglorn trials, I find this one to be the most fun and engaging to heal through. Also, just in case you've never done it before, I won't spoil anything, but there's a secret area that involves a cave and a lot of trolls that never stops being fun every time I've done it. At number 10, we've got Ossian Cage. Honestly, I'll attribute this mostly to me not actually playing it a whole lot. Ossian Cage has been out for a while now, and I think I still have under 10 clears on it. Honestly, it's a pretty fun trial. There are interesting mechanics, some decent visuals, some secrets, etc. It just doesn't really interest me as much as some of the other trials on this list. I think that also isn't helped by the fact that none of the sets are particularly good, so I haven't seen many listings for it. So all in all, it just doesn't stand out to me in any way. It's fun and interesting, and I'll certainly play it if I have some friends who want to try it, but I don't see myself ever going out of my way to hop into this trial. At number 9 is Rock Grove. probably the most talkative bosses of any trial. By the time you finish this, you'll hear spit melt you away and Zalvaka overwhelms you, probably in your dreams. Honestly, though, it gets bonus points in my book for that alone. Memes aside, Rock Grove is generally a pretty good trial and well known for how difficult the hard mode version is. I think one of the biggest things holding it back for me is the visuals. There isn't anything wrong with them per se, I'm not a huge fan of the Argonian or Deadlands aesthetic. The sets are very good if you're a tank, but pretty niche and situational if you're a healer. Speaking of healing, another reason Rock Grove is so low is just because it's not my favorite trial to heal. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy kite healing as much as the next guy, but there's a lot of kite healing going on in this trial, and it doesn't feel quite as fun to kite in Rock Grove as it does in something like Cloud Rest. Maybe that's just me though, that's just how I feel about it. At number 8 we have the Maw of Lorcaj. Ah yes, good old Maw of Lorcaj. Dang it, I do it every time. In all seriousness though, this is genuinely such a fun trial. Beautiful design, fun mechanics, interesting enemies, and Roar of Alkosh is from here. Now, is it perfect? Of course not, but I adore this trial. The reason that it's so low is mainly just due to the fact that this trial has been seriously power crept. I mean, it makes sense though. The trial is almost 10 years old and was designed long before things like subclassing and hybridization existed in the game. Once upon a time, hitting 30k DPS was seen as great, whereas in 2026, even an average DPS player can copy a Fate Carver build to do over 100k DPS. Unfortunately, this leads to a lot of the really cool and interesting mechanics just being skipped due to how fast you can burn these bosses. I definitely put it higher up on my list were it not for that. At number 7, we have Sanity's Edge. I think what really helps this one stand out for me is the mechanics. They make it really, really fun to heal this trial. Between the Frost Bombs in the first encounter, the AoEs in the second encounter, and the Poison Mind in the final encounter, Sanity's Edge is a great test of a healer's skill and build. From a visual standpoint, the trial certainly is pretty to look at. It's not my favorite, but it's pretty good. So then why is it only halfway up the list and not higher? Well, the first is that there just aren't really any good sets for healers. Transformative Hope is just fine, and I don't expect most healers will ever use it, to be honest. The other is just that I like the other trials more, so let's talk about those. At number 6, we've got Lucent Citadel. This is definitely one of, if not the most visually striking trial in all of ESO. I always mention it, but the art and visuals people really popped off with anything involving Gold Road, but Lucent Citadel is especially captivating. On top of just being pretty, it's a really fun trial. The encounter mechanics and ad pulls are engaging and challenging when you're running in an optimized group. They can also be chaotic and hilarious when you're running in a not-so-organized group. I have many fond memories of teaching some new players this trial in my core guild, and it was pretty frequently requested because there are some really good sets in here. Maybe not so much for healers, which is part of why this trial isn't further up the list, but it's certainly an incredibly fun and beautiful trial that I still enjoy playing to this day. At number 5, we have Halls of Fabrication. This is such a good trial, dude. Even to this day, when someone says, "Hey doc, we need a healer for Halls of Fab, you in?" The answer is always yes. Now, from a visual standpoint, I'll be honest, it's not my favorite. I'd put Morrowind, Dwarven, and Clockwork City amongst my least favorite aesthetics, and this trial is a blend of all of those things. That, however, does not take away from how fun this trial is, and also how useful the Master Architect set is that you can earn from this trial. I think what really gets me in Halls of Fab are the mechanics. I look at them almost as the gold standard for what mechanics should be. They're fun and engaging without being frustrating, and as a healer, nearly every encounter gives you plenty to do. I mean, the first encounter alone is, in my opinion, one of the most fun encounters in the entire game for healers when you use a simple stack and burn method. Now, I did say almost the gold standard for mechanics, and that's just because as much as I absolutely adore Halls of Fab, the remaining trials are just top tier, in my opinion. At number 4, we have Dreadsail Reef. Now, some people may be shaking their fists and heading down to the comments right now to give me a piece of their mind for putting this in the number 4 spot, and I get it. There is, understandably, a pretty substantial amount of players who consider DSR to be their favorite trial of all time. Why is that? Well, to start, It's absolutely gorgeous. It has so much varied scenery and visuals that makes it strikingly unique from every other trial in the game. The encounters and ad pulls are so much fun with very unique mechanics that are challenging and engaging. Challenging, actually, to the point that a lot of people still consider this to be the hardest trial to clear on hard mode. There's plenty of things for healers to do, and especially when your team decides they'd like to see how many times they can get struck by lightning in one run. It also contains a very good set for healers, which is Pillager's Prophet. The only reason why this isn't higher is simply just because now we are entering my top 3 favorite trials of all time. At number 3, we've got Kynes Aegis. Earlier, when I mentioned that Halls of Fab was almost the gold standard for what I think mechanics should be, it's because this trial exists. Kynes Aegis has mechanics in both the encounters and ad pulls that are simple and easy to understand for new players, yet also contain a surprising amount of depth that makes them engaging, interesting, and challenging at higher difficulties. Every encounter is unique, with plenty to do for every role of the group. Of course, aesthetically, Skyrim being my favorite video game of all time probably does give it a little bit of a boost for me personally. And to top it all off, Kynes Aegis contains a very good set for healers, which is Roaring Opportunist. The classic Rojo build isn't quite as prevalent as super high-end, score-pushing optimized groups, but for your average trial group, Roaring Opportunist is half of one of the best healer setups in the game. At number 2, we have Cloud Rest. Now, you may be surprised to see this so high when compared to the other mini-trial, Asylum Sanctorium. I won't lie, I don't think Cloud Rest is objectively better than Kynes Aegis or Dreadsail Reef, but Cloud Rest is where it is mainly due to nostalgia and how good the sets are, or were, I guess. Cloud Rest was the very first trial I ever completed. I was a pretty average healer at the time and didn't know what I was doing. Flash forward later, and Cloud Rest also became the first ever hard mode that I completed when my friends and I completed Vet Plus 3. On top of the nostalgia, the mechanics are actually pretty interesting and memorable. As a healer, Cloud Rest strikes a nice balance of things like heal checks, kite healing, etc., all without feeling like you have to sweat your butt off to keep the team alive. When it comes to sets, Olorime is still a good source of major courage. Sure, it's not quite as good as Spell Power Cure these days, but still overall good. And I'll always have a soft spot in my heart for Cloud Rest. But there is one trial that stands above the rest for me. And in number 1, we've got Sunspire. I don't think anyone is surprised by this. I've made it abundantly clear on the channel before that Elsewhere is my favorite expansion, Rimmen is my home, fighting dragons is cool, so naturally Sunspire will be my favorite trial. Now, my love for Sunspire doesn't just come from those simple things. Firstly, I think it takes the best aspects of a mini trial and a regular trial and puts them together. What I mean is that, like a mini trial, you can pick the order that you fight the first 2 bosses, and it feels kind of like a boss rush a little bit. Yes, most people typically start with Locusts, but you can absolutely go to Yolnahkrin first if you prefer. It's a small touch, but one that I appreciate. The ad pulls are fun and can be a little challenging, but aren't quite Kynes Aegis or Lucent Citadel levels of insanity. There are plenty of interesting and engaging mechanics, but also sometimes where you can just kind of turn your brain off and parse a little bit. When you look at it specifically from a healer perspective, I think you get a little bit of everything. Each boss offers some sort of heal check, which is nice for practicing your heal parse. Then, each boss also offers plenty of time to focus on your rotation and buff up times, meaning, in my opinion, this is a great place for healers to practice our trade. There aren't really any good healer sets in here, I'll admit, but there are some good sets for other roles, so you can definitely find some pugs if you want to run it. Overall, it just feels like a very straightforward and well-rounded trial with an aesthetic that I love, and it's definitely my favorite. And I think that concludes my list of every trial in ESO ranked. Please keep in mind that these are just my opinions, so if you disagree with me, that's totally okay. Feel free, though, to let me know what your favorite trial is down in the comments. As always, I hope you enjoyed the video and found it useful. Don't forget to check out the link in the description so you can follow me on stuff and join my Discord server. Before we head out, I also want to give a quick shout out to my Patreon supporters as well as my YouTube members. Thank you guys for being awesome, and I appreciate y'all. I think all I've got left to say is that I've been Doc. Take care of yourselves, be good to others, make sure to stay hydrated, and I will catch y'all in the next one.